Hi all, welcome to the news update of Professor Visa and Education Services. My name is Nish. I'm a director of Professor Visa and Education Services and Mara agent, Mara number 1568498. Now I've got as usual, I've got a lot of topics to cover, especially with the borders being open and also the general skill migration news. I'll be covering a fair bit of topic just to give you an idea of what I'm going to cover. In today's topic is the border's been open from 18th of Feb 2022, a very important date, and also the requirements for travelers coming into Australia and the 482 visa, potentially all the short-term occupation list moving into the medium to long-term list, which means the people who were under 482 visa under the short-term occupation or people who are looking at applying for a 482 visa under short-term occupation could potentially apply for permanent residency in future, which is obviously the recent announcement by the minister. Some of the frequently asked questions about 408 visa and also finding out if the 408 visa gonna stop anytime soon now the borders are open, and what's the implication in terms of the future visa application, and also the frequently asked question about the 408 general skill migration visa processing times and delays, because there has been a significant amount of delays on 491 visas, 887 visas, especially for the occupation that are not critical. We'll talk about that today, and also some of the states and territory updates, including Western Australia, Tasmania, and New South Wales. Also, we'll be talking about 485 replacement visa. So let's get onto it quickly. So obviously the borders of Prime Minister's made an announcement, followed by the Minister of Department of Home Affairs, Alex Hawke, Honorary Alex Hawke. So about the 18th of Feb, the border will be open for all visa holders, especially if they're fully vaccinated. The definition of fully vaccinated as up until now remains 2 vaccinations, so vaccination dose 1 and dose 2. And also there has been a change in digital passenger declaration. Before there was the Australian travel declaration that has been replaced by this digital passenger declaration called DPD, which I'll talk about that soon. Now the border is actually open for all visa holders, including Bridging Visa B as well. So this is a great news for people who has to leave the country before, potentially because they had a Section 48 ban, or if they are on an employer sponsored visa, or the visa they were not kind of critical. They've applied for a visa, but they like student visa or TR or whatnot, because they were kind of holding a Bridging Visa B. They were stuck overseas because they didn't fall under the eligible visa before. But now, obviously the border's been open. Bridging Visa B holders, if it's still valid, of course, can come into Australia if they are fully vaccinated and fulfill the other formalities. Now, the first thing first, for people coming into Australia, obviously the border is going to open in literally on 18th of Feb, which is not that far away. The things that you need to be careful about before coming to Australia, obviously your visa, check your visa expiry date, and the visa itself is valid or not. Second thing is your vaccination certificate. It's very important that you have the evidence to demonstrate that you're fully vaccinated. Now, obviously, if you have children that are not vaccinated, under 12 is kind of considered vaccinated for this travel purpose, but anyone over that age needs to seek for the partial quarantine arrangement with the states or territory they're coming in. So these are all the information available in the website. Please make sure you check, because there is a situation where the parents are vaccinated and the kids are not, and then that's where this challenge comes in. But the under 12, we've already made this clear in the last video that under 12 will be considered as vaccinated for the purpose of traveling, unless you can demonstrate that there's a medical reason as well that why they can't be vaccinated and so on. So I don't want to go too much into detail of this topic because I've got a fair bit of topics to cover today. So I'm just going to touch on the important part. So let's talk about the digital passenger declaration part. So the digital passenger declaration has replaced the Australian travel declaration. All passengers arriving by air into Australia should complete the DPD. You can start the DPD 7 days before your flight and submit it within 72 hours prior to your departure to Australia. This is because you must provide your health information and declaration, vaccination status, and COVID-19 test result within 72 hours before your flight. When filling out the DPD, you will need to provide your contact details, including a contact phone number in Australia, making a legal binding declaration in relation to your vaccination status, make a declaration regarding your last 14 days travel history, make a declaration that you are aware of the quarantine and testing requirements that apply when coming to Australia in the states or territory you are landing, and the penalties for non-compliance. So it's important that you understand the states or territory. Always, first of all, you need to find out what's the requirement of you coming into that particular state or territory that coming in. And then this is the declaration that you're making in DPD, that you are aware about those compliance. It's very important. Now quickly, before starting the DPD application, you may complete the DPD application using the web browser or desktop or via mobile phone. Before boarding in and on arrival in Australia, you may be asked to show the DPD. You should either print a copy of your DPD form, the summary screen, or ensure that you have this available on your mobile phone. Now, before you travel to Australia, you must take a polymerase chain reaction, what's PCR, or RT-PCR, or other nucleic acid alpha alification NAAT test within 3 days of your flight, or medically supervised RAT test within 24 hours of your flight to Australia. You must present a negative test result to check in to your flight. So obviously this is all, you can find it on the website, but then I just want to reiterate for those people who are sort of kind of excited to come to Australia, but these are the the important part there, forget about it. Currently, most of the state and territories requires you to undertake COVID-19 test within 24 hours of arrival. Although requirements may change from time to time, additional testing requirements apply in some states and territories. If you do not get tested, you may face serious penalties, including jail time or fines up to $11,000. These requirements may vary, so you need to check the requirements on the state's Australian.gov.au website closer to your arrival. Please bring the evidence of COVID-19 testing and your COVID-19 vaccination with you. DPD is required for all passenger. Parents should complete the DPD for all children 16 and under. So look, again, we talked about a vaccination certificate and all that kind of stuff before as well, and also you need to also look at the acceptable vaccination in Australia, which is a therapeutic goods Australia TGA approved vaccination, of course. So you need to double check whether or not your vaccination is approved, and then you need to show the evidence that you're fully vaccinated, followed by the DPD, the Digital Passenger Declaration Form. I can't reiterate this enough. This is very important, and the Border Force in Australia will be requesting you to present this before you're arriving from the Border Force, okay, from the immigration clearance. Now, the other topic that I wanted to talk to you about is a temporary employer sponsorship visa, the short-term occupations, such as cook, for example, baker, to a potential permanent residency pathway. So Minister Hawkes made an announcement on 25th of November 2021 to enhance the visa pathway, like all the short-term 482 visa occupation that is listed on the short-term to lead to permanent residency. This will be available. The legislation is currently being developed at the moment. It's expected to be introduced around middle of this year. And the Department of Home Affairs kind of encourage people, like, if you don't have visa left up until that time, to sort of leverage 408 visa until such changes come into place. So that's a bit of a welcoming news there for people who are kind of employed at the moment under short-term occupation, 482 visa holders, or potentially looking at applying for 482 visa in the future, but they fall under short-term occupation list. They could be a pathway for permanent residency. Now, the further good news is the list doesn't constrain, because when it was first initially announced, it was more targeted to hospitality and health allied professionals, but it appears that the list will be updated for any occupation. Basically, any occupation that's on the short-term occupation list could potentially go into the medium to long-term list, which means that there is, or the list might not change. However, there will be a possibility for you to apply for permanent residency. Again, that was announced by the minister, but then we can expect those changes to come into play by mid this year. 408 visa is another topic. People are sort of a little bit worried about now the borders open. I mean, the COVID situation is sort of calming down a little bit. Of course, there's still people dying every day, which is very sad from the COVID-19. But, obviously the 408 visa was introduced by the Department of Home Affairs when we had this global pandemic, when the World Health Organization, WHO, announced we have a global pandemic situation. And then a lot of people were stuck in this country, not being able to get out. So there has been no discussion at this stage to stop accepting the new application or ceasing to grant the subclass 408 visa. So immigration hasn't made any kind of decision about ceasing the visa application as such. And so that's the news from the Department of Home Affairs itself. So I'm just going to get a water. Okay. Now, obviously, 408 visa is designed for people working in critical sectors. When I say critical sectors, aged care, disability, mass food production, childcare, places, industry like the hospitality and all that kind of stuff. Now, the commonly asked question about 408 is it going to stop anytime soon? The Department of Home Affairs hasn't given any indication that they're going to stop this visa anytime soon, or the visa that are pending will be seized for processing. There's no such news from Department of Home Affairs. Now, the commonly asked question about the 408 visa is, can I change my employer? Yes, you can. As long as you're working in a critical sector, you can change your employer. Can I work for more than one employer? Of course, you can work for more than one employer. As long as you're working, your primary occupation is critical sector, you can have a secondary job that is not critical. Now, the other one is, can I travel on 408 visa? Well, majority of the 408 visa comes with the multiple entries, So you can travel and come back to Australia, but always double check your visa and to ensure it says multiple entries. Can I apply for a student visa at the end of the 408 visa? The legislative criteria doesn't prevent you to apply for a student visa subclass 500. The only thing is, the people need to understand is when we apply for a student visa, everyone has to satisfy the Direction 69 Migration Regulation 500.212, which is called a genuine temporary entrant criteria, followed by all other visa eligibility criteria, of course, but that's the main one people need to be worried about when going from 408 to student visa. That they need to demonstrate that, why they're choosing this particular course, how they're gonna take the value of that course and take it back home, and what are they gonna do about it, whether or not they're gonna go back home after finishing the course and all that kind of stuff. Just a normal situation. So of course, if you are looking at applying for student visa after 408 visa, the careful assessment of your previous migration history, your travel history, your economical ties, your financial ties, your family ties, they all need to be tied up together in your genuine temporary entrance statement, plus the overall presence of the application has to be there in order for you to get your visa grant anyway. However, legislative requirement doesn't prevent you from applying a student visa after 408 visa is granted. Now, of course, when the 408 visa is expired, if you're still working in a critical sector, we have also seen renewing, or we have done 408 visa renewal for 3 times for one of our particular applicant, and we have no problem. However, the scrutiny check on the file might be a little bit higher, but as long as you can demonstrate you're working in a critical sector, you have no problem. But if you're not working in a critical sector, essentially you get a visa for 3 months. You can work in that 3 months. There is no constraint on working in that period, because the 3 months is designed for you to organize your travel back home as soon as possible, and also be able to sustain while you're in Australia. So just be careful, while you're applying for 408 visa again after 3 months, the scrutiny check will be relevant, will significantly higher at that point. Okay. Now, the other problem we have at the moment is a processing time for 491 visa holder, general skilled migration visa, especially 190 as well, is also delayed for non-critical occupations. 491 has a significant delay for the non-critical occupation. Now, the update on the Department of Home Affairs about why there is a delay is The Australian government remains committed to supporting business and individual employed in critical sector or with skills critical to Australia's response to COVID-19 and economic recovery. As a result of Australian government's COVID-19 response, some visa processing time have affected as the resources has been directed to priority work. The department is currently processing application in accordance with Direction Number 92, Order of Consideration, certain skilled migrants visa, the direction under the provision of the direction application for the general skilled migration visa for the applicant with the nominated occupation within the critical sector has the highest priority. Applicants with an application that has a lower priority under the direction will experience longer processing times that will exceed the average processing time. Now, the direction number 92, you can Google it and then look for direction number 92, where there is an order of the priority, how the visa will be, how the occupation will be nominated, and how the application will be processed. So there's a two sort of priority you can see. Just to give you an example, the occupation on the MTSOL, the priority occupation list, global talent visas, 188 significant investment visa, and the critical occupation will be given the first priority, and the other occupation will come out later, which is why we have seen a significant amount of delays. We do get an enormous amount of phone calls every day for people who has applied for 491 back in 2022. Still, they're waiting on the outcome. Yes, of course, you can write an email to Department of Home Affairs if you have passed the global processing time, but the chances of Department of Home Affairs replying to that email is very slim, because they've already made a sort of announcement about the direction number 92, and the Department of Home Affairs still currently following the orders of the direction number 92, which is processing all the critical occupation first. And if you look at the direction 92 in detail, you will see how these things been allocated. States and territory update. Western Australia has announced it has met all the quota for the state nomination program for financial year 2022. Applicants for Western Australia nomination continues to be processed. Applicants for Western Australia nomination continue to process. However, any application which meets the requirements to be approved will be placed on hold until further allocations are made and will be notified by email. Should additional places become available and migration services can proceed with the nomination, applicants will be contacted. For further information, it is available on the Migration Western Australia website. The other update is Tasmania update, which just literally came this afternoon. Tasmania nomination quota for year 2022 is for 491, there was 2,200 places, 1,274 places has been used. Subclass 190, 1,100 places were there, 739 places were used. Tasmania at this point in time will continue to nominate those candidates who can be best contribute to Tasmanian business skills need. Migration Tasmania will focus on following three priorities. Number one, priority will be given to the candidates with employment and a skill assessment related to the critical role, health, allied health, infrastructure and engineering, and a skill assessment directly in line with that role. Candidates with employment and skill assessment related to Tasmanian skill occupation list. Candidates with employment directly related to the nominated skill assessment. Example, skill assessment as a chef and working as a chef. So that is the example, but you could relate to other occupation if you're working in a nominated occupation. Remaining application deemed suitable will be ranked competitively and considered for any remaining nomination places. Outcomes for applicants who are not in these three priority area may not be available until later in the program year, which is end of the June 30, 2022. Migration Tasmania is investigating with the Department of Home Affairs on the possibility of additional quota however, there is no guarantee, and the information will be made available when they are aware about it. So obviously, in terms of the priority for Tasmania hasn't changed. The 1, 2, 3 that I just mentioned remains pretty much consistent throughout the year, and that's what we have sort of experienced anyway in relation to applying for nomination and all the success story that we've been looking at. Somewhat these people have kind of fall into that category. Now, the next topic is the New South Wales 491. Obviously, we had a lot of hope from New South Wales state government when they did the invitation round for January window, but it appears to be a very small round of invitation, which we did get a confirmation from the New South Wales investment themselves. It was a very small round of invitation round. However, obviously we got a big amount of feedback from our clients, and of course we have published the stats of people who received the invitation from New South Wales investment, and also we had other migration agents sharing the stats, and it looks pretty alarming because there doesn't seem to be any sort of priority of for stream 1 against stream 2 or 3, or stream 3 against 1 or 2. It seems to be quite a random pick. We couldn't get the any sort of rhythm or pattern out of the stats on what sort of profile were picked. So we did raise a question to Investment New South Wales. The answer was we have provided the answer in a frequently asked question, and it is completely up to the discretion of New South Wales Investment. Obviously, the RDA of New South Wales has no say on this because the pre-invitation is selected by New South Wales Investment. So, guys, if you are calling RDA, Regional Development Authorities, putting a case forward, well, RDA's hands are tied. They can't make any, recommendation, or they can't participate on the pre-selection criteria. The involvement of RDA for this financial year appears to be just as a processing department. So obviously New South Wales Investment will be doing the pre-selection, and based upon who they were selected or what sort of candidate was selected, the application will then go to RDA, regional RDAs. They will process, send it back to the New South Wales Investment. New South Wales Investment will then generate skill select invitation, then you can eventually lodge the visa application. Obviously, it was a bit disappointing just to see only 4% of the people of our applicants got invitation out of a big volume of ROIs that we have lodged. However, we are getting ready for the March ROIs. So if your profile has changed, this is the time that we need to put that in your ROI in March. However, obviously, we will continue to provide that feedback to New South Wales Investment about the selection criteria and the stats. I know a lot of clients have written us enormous amount of emails about the stats doesn't look good, because obviously there were a lot of people on the stream 1 waiting on the invitation, and obviously New South Wales Investment has also put a frequently asked question saying just because you're on a stream 1 doesn't guarantee you're going to get the nomination. But still, looking at the stats, it appears to be very random at this point in time. But when we get more news about what sort of skill set, what sort of candidate New South Wales Investment is looking at retaining for New South Wales State, we will bring it out to you guys. But up until now, let's just get ready for March ROI, so that there might be a round on April, and hopefully a big round this time. So let's hope for the best. Other good news for 18th of Feb seems to be quite a good day for migrants and people coming into Australia, because 18th of Feb is when the 485 replacement visa will start happening. Now, you do not need to apply for this visa. This will happen automatically. It's free of cost. You don't need to pay for this. You don't need to contact the Department of Home Affairs. You will receive an email. Now, and also if your subsequent entrant or your partner was included on your original application, then the visa will be granted to your dependent applicant as well. So that will happen on 18th of Feb. Now, a lot of people have already come to Australia, and then some of the people will, expire their visa on 18th of Feb itself. I suggest you wait until, end of the day before you apply for another visa to see if you're going to get the email which says you have been automatically given a visa or the extension for the replacement period for the time that you were stuck overseas. Now, it was quite a long video. It's almost 25 minutes now, so I would like to conclude this quickly. However, there's more news coming, especially we are all anticipating that big news. The Minister of Department of Home Affairs, Alice Hawke, has said in November about the 482 short-term occupation list can also tap into permanent residency, which is a very welcoming news. That plus, it'll be interesting to see how New South Wales ROI will roll out in upcoming windows, because as we're coming to the closer of the financial year, let's hope that New South Wales Investment will utilize the numbers to give out more invitation. Yeah, people who are stuck overseas, they can reunite with their family members. Great news for 18th of Feb. It will be a lot of happy days for a lot of people who's been away from their family for almost 24 months now. So, enjoy the day. Of course, don't forget the first part that I talked about, digital passenger declaration form. It's very important for you guys. But again, yep, I'll be back again with more news, more significant news for you guys, so that you can get up to date. Where we are. We are in Sydney, Hobart, and in Canberra. We are based in 83 York Street, level 7. Our phone number 0290074409. You can approach us in social media page via Messenger. We have people sort of replying back the messages, almost 24/7. And also our mobile phone app. So Professional Visa and Education Services have launched the mobile phone app. Especially congratulations to the Pro Visa members, because you can now go into our free app and also put in your username and password, and you can connect with our consultant directly through live chats, and you can view special news edition for Pro Visa clients only into that portal. So which is coming up soon. But yeah, keep watching, keep sharing. And I'll be back again with more news next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your love and support. I'll be back again with more news next time. Bye-bye.